What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. Another Tuesday, Crypto Connoisseurs. Happy to be here. And we got some very special guests in the house. Some folks that will let you know exactly what's going on. What's going on with the market. If that wasn't a clue, well, it should be. We also have the guys from Bright Union, one of the contributors to the wonderful giveaway that we're doing here, which is getting insane. And I told you guys last time, on last Tuesday, I hope that you paid attention because Yield Guild games, what I told you was going to explode, did explode. I think they closed the public sale at 50 cents and got all up to like 280. And then with a little bit of pullback that we had today, dropped back down a bit. But to remind you guys, we have this huge, massive giveaway, and 20% of it is going to charity. So everybody like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We have to get the viewer count up. We have to get the subscriber count up, and we have to get more and more and more projects to contribute to this giveaway and make it absolutely massive. Massive, massive, massive. And I want to give away a tremendous amount to all of you, all the subscribers, and definitely looking forward to contributing a lot of money toward charity. Let's see if we can get these crypto cases to total $10 million, and then $2 million of it will go to charity, and we will donate it based on what charities you feel we should be giving it to, in addition to what I want to do in buying devices for those in need and loading them up with education and play to earn blockchain games. So in times of need, they can literally play to earn. So guys, again, the contributors to the giveaway are Decubate, Ojamu, Plutus, Bright Union, Demodify, Creator, Drife, Purify, Anarchy X, Yield Guild Games, Houdui, Polytrade, Dot Finance, Ally, Parafinance, Formation Fi, Emiswap, Omni, and CDs Exchange. And we got some more coming to you next week as well that have already been locked in. All right, let's bring on. I don't know if the guys from Bright Union are. Yeah, sounds like they're good. Let's bring them on so they can tell you a little bit about the project. I'm very excited for it. Here you go. Let's welcome, gentlemen. How's it going?
Hey, Cal. Good to see you. All good here. Great to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Great for having you guys. I'm quite excited about your project. And I know that you're launching in a couple of days. Maybe you can tell everybody listening exactly what you're working on and what you're doing here.
Sure. Let me first start off with the team, because I think that's the foundation of every project, right? We're a collection of crypto, insurance, and finance experts based in Amsterdam, looking to bring Web 3.0 to the insurance industry. I think it's also nice to mention we already know each other from previous assignments, so we work together, and we're a team that's very efficiently in working together. So that's the team. That's the first off.
Yeah, I think maybe in summary, Kyle, we're building a blockchain agnostic DeFi coverage platform. So I think everyone knows that the risks of scams and rug pulls are increasing. We're kind of jumping into this. There are a lot of initiatives coming to the market, and of course, everyone knows Nexus Mutual. Some others have been launched recently: Bridge, Insurace, Tidal, and Slashed. And we are basically building a one-stop shop on top of this. So it's initially an aggregator, accelerator. We will also bring kind of our own products to the market. The product is actually almost ready. So I think we are pretty excited also about the product launch, which is upcoming. But first step is kind of the IDO, and maybe Chris, you can explain a little bit on the kind of roadmap for the coming 2-3 weeks.
Sure, Kyle. First off, any questions on your end?
Yeah, you said the roadmap, you guys' product is almost ready. What does that mean? Because it's always good for people who are considering acquiring some tokens that they understand when they'll be actually utility for the intended purpose.
Sure. Well, let me tell you this. August is going to be very bright. We have 3 key events lined up this August, and it's better to jump on the train right now. So we have a thrifold IDO coming up this Thursday, launching on paid, Moonstarter, and pools. 11 a.m. UTC. Then on 6th, only one day later, we're going to launch the Bright Staking, right? We have some pretty attractive APYs. That's all I can say at this point. And then end of August, maybe early September, but we try to keep it in August because we want to have a bright August. We'll launch the mainnet, which is a full-fledged aggregator product where all users can compare, buy, and manage their whole crypto cover portfolio.
Yeah, and maybe good to add there is that we have the first customers in the pipeline as well. So we are currently working on some projects with the first initial customers. So we're actually pretty excited that it now comes together. IDO, product launch, and everything squeezed into a 4-week timeframe.
Awesome, guys. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? I mean, it's I have a question. Like, so there's obviously other types of products in the market that address a similar need. What makes you guys different? What's your unique differentiator? And yeah.
Sure. Let me pick that one up. I think 3 things. Let me do real quick. 1, I think we're going to be the first to market, right? End of August is pretty quick. It's a difficult product. We'll launch it. 2, we're not just an aggregator. We're also an accelerator. We have a strong insurance background, and we're going to bring innovative products to the market. First one off is the Bright Risk Index, which basically is an ETF tracker for coverages, right? So instead of insuring for one protocol, you can insure against 20, therefore hedging your bets. And the third one, I think, with what I started, the foundation of any protocol is a team, right? We have the right expertise to fully execute on our mission and vision.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for contributing to the crypto cases. Very much looking forward to seeing how that contribution turns out when it's time to do the giveaway. I have a feeling it will be worth a lot.
I think so too, man. Thanks, Kyle.
Thanks,
all right,
Kyle.
gentlemen. Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. So on this show, this show tonight, we have, like I said, some industry experts, and we're going to be going over the state of the market, what's going on. We had this massive run up a few days ago, and then today we saw a bit of a correction. So luckily we have some of the best analysts, technical analysts and macro analysts as well on the show tonight. We're going to be covering also something that's very important, and I know that it's important to every guest that we have on the show tonight, is this idea of censorship. For me, it's important all around, but for a lot of people, their livelihood depends on their ability to be uncensored or have the freedom to broadcast. And potentially we'll get into some other altcoins, but on the higher ones, we know that there's some big developments on XRP, but we also know that Ethereum is all over the place right now, so we might get some input on those. But let's dive into it. Let's bring on the guests. We got Didi from the Bitcoin family. Didi, how's it going, buddy?
I
can't hear you, man.
Yeah, I was muted. I'm doing amazing. How are you, Carl? Thanks for having me on the show again.
Didi was at a water park and then with his family, and then took some time off to be here with us tonight. So thanks, Didi, for coming home for this, and appreciate it. And it's somewhat of a reunion. If you go back to my earliest days of my YouTube channel, we have another guest, Carl from the Moon. How's it going, Carl?
Everything is absolutely fantastic. How are you, man?
Yeah, doing great, man. Where are you?
Well, technically I'm in a car, but I am in Sweden.
Visiting the family?
Visiting family, friends, and yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying Sweden during summer, but all in all, I tried to travel a lot, and I tried to stay in Dubai, but during summer in Dubai, it's just not possible to be there. And then Sweden is the perfect place to spend summer with friends and family, so yeah.
Beautiful. All right, and then we got a last minute guest coming on tonight, and I thought it was important, especially when it comes down to censorship, because we got Crypto Tarzan, who is also managing and dealing with a lot of influencers on the TikTok side of things.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Nice to be here. Thanks, Kyle, for having me. I've been a long time watcher of the podcast, and yeah, I was stoked that you asked me to come on and talk a little bit.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for being here. I think that you have a good macro perspective of what's going on in the market, and when we get into things like censorship, I know that it affects all of us. We've seen what happened to Bitboy, even though it was temporary. Carl, have you gotten any strikes before?
I've gotten strikes, yes. Warnings and strikes, yeah. But I never got deleted like Bitboy and who else? Was it Kevin Hart? I guess got deleted. So yeah, this never happened yet, but I hope that it will be fine.
Yeah, so we'll get into this a little bit more in a bit because I think it's super important. But I have a lot of questions that I would like to ask you guys about that, since all three of you like pretty much livelihood depends on it. So especially being able to use a platform like YouTube to be able to get your messaging out to the world. So but let's dive into the market right now. I think one of the things that there's two main things with the two biggest crypto out there, right? You got Bitcoin and Ethereum, and we keep hearing this news about supply shock, and it's inevitable that it's going to happen. But do you think that we're at that stage yet when we see this happen?
Is that a question for me?
Just whoever. I mean, they could just go ahead and dive in. I mean, maybe to give a little bit of context, let's just watch this quickly. Well, actually, let's go to Willie.
Of supply of Bitcoin that you can get versus the supply that you can't get. And so one view of supply shock is how many coins do the speculators have? Because you probably can get the coins off the speculators because they buy and sell, but you won't be able to get the coins off the hodlers, the Michael Saylors of this world. He ain't selling, right? So it's simply a ratio of those coins you can't get to the coins you can get. I flipped it so that visually it tracks price. Actually, it tracks price very, very closely, except this last 2 months where supply shock's been ramping up and price is going down, which we call that, classic divergence. And it's very, very seldom you see this at that. Well, I've never seen one at that scale before in the 12-year on-chain history of Bitcoin. We had one October last year, and that resolved in a squeeze, right? It squeezed from 10,000 to 60. And so the supply shock now is at the same level as where we were when we were range bound in the 50, 60,000. So all we need is really the sentiment of traders who really determine the short-term pricing of Bitcoin to switch bullish to the same level of bullish FOMO that you saw, pre-May.
So with that being said, where with you short-term traders on this call here, where's trader sentiment at the moment?
Well, I think that the sentiment got a little bit more bullish in the past few days. Of course, you can see in the like and dislike ratio on YouTube very easily if people are bullish and happy or if they are sad and angry, because after this big drop we saw, and then we saw some continuation on this bearish trend, the dislikes started to increase on my videos and many other people's videos. I could see that it was approaching closer to 10% dislikes, while in the bull run it was more like maybe 3% only, which is like a huge difference. And now in the past 2 weeks I saw the dislikes go down again, and now I'm basically not getting dislikes anymore. So it feels like the bullishness has come back a little bit based on the likes and the dislikes. Not the best trading indicator maybe, but it is somehow a good indication of sentiment, I think, actually. But I don't think we have seen the bullishness come back yet to indicate that we're in a big, like, huge reversal just yet. I think we still have to break above $43,000 in order for the real bullishness to come back in again. Many people are waiting for that level to be broken, me included. I really want to see that barrier be broken before I scream bull run, because right now we're technically still in a downtrend on many, like, well, it depends. Like, actually now I feel like on the daily we start to look more bullish, but I cannot get away from the fact that 43K is very, very important. So I'm holding off of any major positions until that happens. So we could still go lower, but I am considering the fact that it's likelier that we're going to go into the bigger bullish reversal rather than go down below 30K. I think I don't think we're gonna do that. I put that at maybe like a 30-20% chance at most.
It's funny how many people a week ago were screaming 10, 15K. Pretty sure those tweets got deleted. Could this be? I don't know. I don't know what the trading term is. I think it's a bull trap. Is that what it is? Where there's this pump to make people believe that like we're in bullish sentiment, and then it just.
Actually, kind of, yes. I think in the last week or so, we've seen the price go up, but the volume has been going down. That divergence is usually not a good sign. You want to see volume either be the same or increase in a bull trend to have more confidence in it. And we've also seen some bearish divergences come in. So in my opinion, it does seem like in the immediate short term, it looks like the bulls are running out of momentum, and maybe we're going to get some kind of correction. But I'm not saying down to 30K or below 30K. I'm saying something like a correction to potentially 36, 35. Something like this is very possible before we gain back the momentum and gain back the strength to actually go up and really push through 42K. This is a possibility, even quite likely maybe. Yeah, we want to see the bulls coming with more confidence, and right now the volume is actually has been declining, and yeah, the bears are basically defending these 42K levels quite well in the past few days.
Didi,
Cool.
what's
Yeah,
your
I agree kind of with Carl, but I saw also a really cool table like 2 days ago. It happened like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times that we had like 10 consecutive green candles on the day chart. And every time when that happened, the first 2 days after those 10, 11, 12, 13 was the max, I think, in 2017. We had like a pullback of 2%, of 1%, of 3%. But in all of these moments that it happened, 60 days later, on average, we were 100% up from that moment where we are now. And the cool part is always every time it was in July again. So for me, it's still just a small pullback in this bull. And I'm still a fierce believer that we will be up with 100% in 2 months or something from this moment. And if you look at the data, then the data is showing us this as well. You know, I think after 10 days, on average, we were already up like 22% and 20 days, 70%. So I think this is again the last moment that some very weak hands are selling their bitcoins again to the strong hands. Those strong hands are creating this supply shock, of course, because they are just hodling. And the exchanges, you can see that almost 60% has left the exchanges. Only 30% is left, or 13% even on exchanges. So
you have this chart here that shows.
Yeah. That's like nothing. That's like, what is it, 2.5 million bitcoins left on the exchanges or something. For me, this feels really bullish. But again, it's Bitcoin. Everything can happen. But if I look at the charts at the moment, you see a lot of buy signals that are built on the macroeconomics, and you see the MACD slowly changing again. We have a lot of indicators that are changing. And mostly the people start to believe it when something in the charts shows them the truth, and that is what Carl is right. We have this downward trend line coming up from 60K and then a lower high around 58K. And if we want to break that one, we need to be above 43K. And I think Carl was referring to that line. And if we break that line, come back and test that downward trend line, then I go up, then I become really, really, really even more bullish. No, even more bullish than I am already. And I'm a very bad bear.
Last week we had a coach on the show, and he was telling his marker is, he's saying 48K is what we need to hit before we're really back into bullish territory. Do you have any idea like why he would say this, or what's the 42K versus 48K number?
Let's see, he said the 48K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that would be that would be a resistance area that has been like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times resistance in the last run between February till this 46K. So that's a huge area, of course, of resistance. But I think we will break the 42, then go to the 48, then maybe come back to that downward trend line and then go up again. That's the same thing we are doing now. We are going to 42, I said in the video 2 days ago, yeah, we will probably fall back to 37,500 because that's the previous area of support and resistance, and then go up. We never go up just like straight, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not as good a trader as Carl and all the others. You know, I trade mainly on indicators, and I have my own indicator, the Didi BAM indicator, and that one said 2 weeks ago on the weekly chart already, this is going to be a long. So I posted this video, okay, my indicator is shouting along, and everybody was screaming, oh, we're going to 10K. And of course, everybody starts to laugh at you and all that stuff. But now the BAM indicator was right on the weekly chart. I never use it on the weekly. There was a VIP member that told me, Didi, check your indicator on the weekly. Yes, and on the weekly, it showed, okay, we are going to see a long. So that was a sign to turn around the market. But so for me, yeah, I'm bullish as fuck, but, you know, I'm just a long-haired dude that doesn't have the experience that Carl has and other professional traders.
Tarzan, you got any? Are you a trader or you don't trade?
Yeah, no, I'm not much of a trader, but I work with a lot of, just talking about supply shock and what that really means to me is people being converted from these weak hands to diamond hands. And what's cool is most of my platform has been built on TikTok. And what TikTok does a really good job at is getting a new message out to a lot of people. And so a lot of the audience that we work with and the people who come back and our followers, they're people who are exposed to crypto really recently. You know what I mean? They didn't understand the fundamental difference between Ethereum and Dogecoin at all. They thought both of them were just momentum plays. And, oh, look, it jumped up from 2,000 to 2,400. Let's sell it and take our profit home. It takes a big correction and a little bit of fear, I think, in the market for people to really look at themselves, look at their portfolios and say, what am I doing here? Is this something that I really believe in? What I've seen from our audience and from the people that follow us, not just myself, but a lot of people in my community, the people that we work with, is that the rug is starting to get pulled back from a lot of these people's eyes. The Matrix, it's like that Neo waking up moment where it realizes like, this isn't just some like little fun thing that I do on my cell phone and buy on Robinhood, but this is something that's starting to change the world. And we're starting to see a mass amount of people, all these people who during the bull run, every influencer was just gaining followers, thousands of followers a day. These people are starting to realize like, hey, this isn't just a short-term thing. This is something real. That to me lends itself to the idea of a supply shock and kind of backs up what we're seeing on these indicators. A lot of the retail, I think, a lot of the weak hands have been out in retail, so to speak. But those who are still here, and I think those who did leave are starting to come back in and realizing, hey, I messed up. This is something that I'm starting to believe in. They're starting to do their research more.
Awesome. Okay, this is something that I am very curious about. What I touched on earlier is censorship, and I guess we can go into this. It's where are we heading in the world right now? It's no surprise that the world is weird to say the least right now. And if you see, like, I'm not sure if anyone of you guys have seen documentaries on what's going on in China, but let's just watch this clip real quick and you can see exactly why China would like a central bank digital currency.
In China, happening in China. The country's government is in the process of rolling out a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, that will give it full control to change or censor transactions. So if the government doesn't like you, you can have trouble buying an airplane ticket or even groceries. And there's a good chance it would be difficult to find housing too. The Black Mirror scenario will be made possible through a social credit system that gives people rankings based on the type of citizen they are. Low rankings are given to people who have bad driving records, attend protests, or play too many video games. And if their ranking gets low enough, they can have money taken from their bank accounts or be entirely cut off from the economy. So
this goes into a little bit of like what I've always been saying as far as where we're headed. We saw recently the Fed come out and talk about how urgent it is for us to have a central bank digital currency in the United States. And we've also seen the IMF come out and talk about they're not at all happy with El Salvador right now. I think El Salvador is now on the shit list. And then we have this other issue of the more media censorship. And like this is something that I thought was just incredible, right? So Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan has never in his entire history of podcasting has he ever done an emergency episode, much like you guys do when Bitcoin's crashing. You smash the likes if you want an emergency video, right? But Joe Rogan doesn't do that. But he felt the need to do that. And this was talking about ivermectin. And in the podcast, you know, basically he goes into the fact that you have scientists and doctors with a lot of data and evidence to support what they're doing, that ivermectin works very, very well as a preventative, you know, in fact, much better than a vaccine, for example. And it's very safe, non-toxic. And also anyone who had COVID was treated with ivermectin and, you know, had much like very, very good results. And of course, Joe Rogan has this emergency podcast and he gets banned from YouTube. And then we've seen crypto channels getting banned from YouTube as well. And so there's obviously this agenda going on. And I think that crypto is going to, you know, we're facing an issue, right? We saw Jack Dorsey on the B Word recently, and I thought he looked a little bit sad. And it's a little bit, and I think that Jack, you know, he seems like a very big fundamentalist. He's a Bitcoin maximalist. And imagine like building a platform and then having constantly being bombarded by regulatory bodies telling you what you need to do with your platform and what you cannot do, and having that much power as well, and then having to censor things that you don't feel should be censored. This is a big topic right now, and a lot of people are talking about it. I've got clips on here, but we don't need to go into them. Elio trades and Bitboy and all this stuff. And then I don't know, Didi, that you've been affected, but Carl, you've got a strike. I know Tarzan, your whole business model is at risk right now because of TikTok, and Didi, I'm sure they're coming for you eventually, man. You're too much of a revolutionary to stay under the radar for much longer. So, Carl, how does it make you feel knowing that your entire livelihood and future rests on the hands of YouTube, and the fact that, like, if they wanted to, and they very well could, anything could happen tomorrow where all of a sudden anyone who talked about Bybit, for example, gone. You know, if anything pissed off anyone, you know, YouTube's a US based company, and if it got very political or very threatening, it could just cancel you. Like,
yeah, I mean, it is scary to know that the biggest part of my audience, of course, is on YouTube still, and YouTube could cut me off whenever they want. I'm fortunate enough, or maybe I'm smart enough to actually, I've distributed my audience. So I have other channels now, or other audiences, and also like 90% or more than of my revenues coming from outside of YouTube. Just because of the fact that, I mean, if YouTube cuts me off, then I'm losing all the ad revenue, and I'm losing my audience. And yeah, every YouTuber should have a backup plan, should have everything from like an email list to a Twitter to set up affiliate partnerships that will keep paying you even if your YouTube channel is gone, because being 100% dependent on anyone is never a good thing. And yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of Bitcoin versus the banks, right? And the same should be in social media. And I guess in the future, we are probably going to see a decentralized alternative that is going to be adopted and function as well as YouTube. But I'm not so optimistic about the timing. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 5 years. Could happen in the next 5 years, but I don't think it's going to happen, because it's very hard to change people's behaviors, and people are too naive. People trust governments and YouTube and whatnot. You know, people actually trust too much, and it can be their downfall sometimes. But it's just too convenient to use YouTube. Just like it's too convenient to use the US dollar right now. The convenience blinds people until it becomes a massive emergency, and at that point it's already too late. So, but yeah, I really do believe a decentralized alternative will come. Obviously, we already have them. It's just that no one is using them. I'm not using them because it really makes no sense for me right now to try to push a decentralized alternative, because there are no users there, and it's harder to use and all these things. But just like email took a long time to become useful or easy to use, same will be with these decentralized alternatives. I mean, we already see decentralized exchanges become very usable now. So it looks like we're moving in the right direction in terms of adoption of decentralized products. I really hope one thing that is, of course, going to happen if we have a decentralized YouTube where anyone can do whatever they want, then there will be a lot of bad stuff there, of course. But that is, I think, the price we have to pay for freedom. If we are, I mean, if we make everyone.
I had this conversation over the weekend. Actually, I was just scrolling through my YouTube feed, and I saw a video from Vice, and it was a guy, confessions of, I think that they started this new series of confessions of, and it was this guy who worked for Facebook as one of the moderators who would go in there, and anytime something potentially inappropriate was flagged, they have to go and like review the content and see if they want to remove it or not. And he said it, like, he has PTSD from it, things like people barbecuing dogs or committing suicide on live, or just insane stuff like that. And so I had this discussion actually over the weekend of like, how do you create a platform where we have freedom of speech and people with really important information that needs to be out there, like this podcast that Joe Rogan did, because this literally can save lives. I mean, like it's saving lives in a way that is a far, I mean, like ivermectin has been around for 40 years and non-toxic, and this doctor who goes on to talk about it on Joe Rogan has said he's been using it in his clinic for 9 months with great success and all kinds of studies, and very matter of fact. He's not like promoting it or anything like that. He's just coming out with matter of fact, and it got censored, and that's dangerous. That's not only inappropriate, but it's downright dangerous. So I think there are ways to create decentralized social media platforms that have like self-governance in it, and you've got rewarding people who are out there and self-govern, and that's just something that needs to be evolved and thought about. But Didi, your entire Bitcoin existence has evolved around social media and media, for that matter. It all started with I forget who you told me the story, but when you sold your house, that was picked up, I think it was at Reuters or something, and then that spread like wildfire, and then your story became known around the world, and that's your whole thing right now is the Bitcoin family, and then you've evolved your YouTube channel now, and so again, you're dependent on censorship or not. And so do you think about this stuff at all?
Yeah, to me, it's really hardcore stuff that can make me really mad. I can really get angry on this stuff. When something is censored, I felt discriminated like 2 days ago. I went to IKEA. I wasn't allowed into the restaurant because I didn't have a PCR test or a vaccine. I'm like, fuck, man, this is discrimination. IKEA, it's from Sweden, I think, not letting me in because I didn't have a QR code. I'm like, is this already Ready Player One? What world am I living in? So I went angry. I walked out of the store, and I feel the same. I think Carl was the one that introduced me to YouTube. I was in the island. I was in House of DAO, and Carl said, "Didi, look into YouTube once. You can talk, you can walk." So I said, "Okay, combine it," and that's when I started to grow YouTube audience after some tips from Carl and Chris. And it grew really fast. And they told me in the beginning, Didi, it's easy to earn Bitcoins with this platform in the end. And I'm like, yeah, skeptic as hell. But after a year, I need to admit, you can make some Bitcoins there. So you kind of get dependent on that audience. And I fully agree with Carl. The audience is there. I'm using Library. I'm using many other decentralized options, but there is no audience. I'm happy that my videos are being backed up by Library, and that's a decentralized blockchain alternative. So if YouTube deletes my channel, I have all my backups in Library, but still there is no audience over there. So I agree with Carl. It's kind of weird. It's not that we completely depend on it. Of course, we also have some hodl portfolio, what makes you don't worry but be happy, because I believe in the 4-year cycle. I believe that Bitcoin will be 1,000,000. So if you keep one Bitcoin in the next 4 or 5 years, you again are a millionaire, in my opinion. So if it comes to the dollar value of Bitcoins. So it's a mindset. I think as a Bitcoiner that has been going through these cycles, I think it's not the money that will hurt you. It's the passion and the work that you have put into YouTube. I make this video every day with a lot of pleasure. I walk to beaches, to waterfalls. We discover charts. We discover other YouTubers. You're fully into doing something that gives you goosebumps. And to see that being able to be destroyed with one click of a button, or a robot that denies you because you said COVID in the video, that scares me a little bit. That is why I want to applaud these decentralized versions, because I'm spending a lot of time creating stuff and educating stuff. We all are, and you don't want to have that deleted by these centralized fuck ups.
Yeah, we know that Jack Dorsey's working on, I think it's called Blue Sky, which is the decentralized version of Twitter. And I've talked before about BitClout and these other attempts to do this. And Am, I'm going to come back to you in a second, because I know that so far you've had direct consequences of censorship bans, specifically with China and TikTok. So I'll come back to you in a second. But guys, I just want to quickly talk about Drive as well. Drive is another project that contributed and is launching soon. And we always for as long as I've been talking about smart contracts, the use case I've always used is decentralized version of Uber, because it just makes so much sense, right? Like, who needs a middleman when it comes down to an algorithm that connects drivers and passengers, and the driver makes more money and the passenger pays less to get from point A to point B. It's obvious. People have attempted this before. And when I had heard about what Ferdoush was doing with, and let me just bring her on. Hi, Ferdoush. Didi and Am, I'll bring you back in just a second. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kyle?
Good. Okay, cool. So you got your launch coming up pretty soon. I know you've been working incredibly hard to do it.
Yes.
And I think one of the most interesting things about what drew me to your project was like the amount of research that you did, boots on the ground, finding out what was going on with the way that the centralized incumbents were working and how much they were taking and how the drivers weren't making enough money to survive. So can you tell us a little bit about the motivation behind Drive?
So my whole journey of Drive started with a very clueless conversation with the driver, where this driver asked me, like, can you cancel the trip? I'll still take you to the airport, pay me $100 less. And that's where I asked him, like, what's wrong? Because for a fact, we all knew about this story where technological disruption took place in the mobility industry and brought convenience back to us, where with just few taps in your mobile application, you can book a taxi and you get a taxi at your doorstep. And we also knew for a fact that drivers were making really good money with this ease of use. But, almost like 10 years after that disruption took place, drivers are in such a bad situation where they feel so stuck in this vicious circle, because every other ride hailing platform works on the same business model of charging huge commission. And that was the time, I started asking myself the question, like, why, if there is someone who's spending endless hours behind the wheel, why is he not getting 100% ownership on the fare that I am paying? And that's how my whole journey of Drive started. So there's something that I've been telling people that, now all the ride sharing platforms that we know are multi-billion-dollar company. The idea of building ride sharing platform was to uplift this driver community. But when you look back at the drivers, if they're still, making, still having this hard time, with the income that they're generating from ride sharing economy, it itself says a lot about that something has gone wrong. There's something which is broken, and that's where Drive come into place to solve this issue and bridging the gap that's been created by the ride sharing companies, giving drivers and riders the power that actually belongs to them. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Gotcha. So, yeah, and I think it's pretty clear what your product is. And guys, like, as someone who's been in the space forever, I've heard several different people attempt this idea of a decentralized Uber, but what got me with Drive was this franchise model, and it just made me feel like, when you why don't you explain it to him a little bit first, and then I'll just tell people why I think it's going to be really big.
Yeah. So, initially the idea was obviously to be someone who start operation like any other platform does it. But then we realized by doing so, we'll ourselves defeat the whole purpose of decentralization, because we will be controlling operation across the globe. And that's how the idea of franchising the whole ecosystem came in place, because for a fact, we knew that this industry is so lucrative. Everybody wants to be part of this, but then the technology aspect of this is so difficult to build. And a lot of people who might be very known in the space or who understand how the real operation works don't know how the technology works. And that's where the whole idea of franchising out the ecosystem came in place, where we can take care of the technology, and people from the local communities, say even the driver unions, can come together and take up the franchisee. And that's where the what do we say, the loyalty comes in place, where driver unions running the operation for Drive. And then we know, like, even if like other companies come and say, like, get into price war or something, we know drivers on our side, because they are running the operation for Drive. And that's where we made Drive a global name in no time. Like, currently when I'm like talking to you, I'm working on like more than 5 different franchises for 5 different countries. And these are all the organic interest that came from their side itself. Like, people came to me and said, like, we want to do it in Brazil, or we want to do it in Dubai. And we started working on it. So in no time, we can actually make Drive a global name, just because we have this concept of franchisee in place.
Yeah. So why that's important, why I think it's important, ladies and gentlemen, is because in order to win the rights to a jurisdiction, I like to think of this as like a I like to think that this is like the drug cartel. Like, if it's your jurisdiction, like the Pablo Escobars, right? So these guys, like, if I want to run Thailand or something, I could. There's going to be an auction, and
Yes.
you're going to have to stake Drive tokens in order to control that domain. And so you can just imagine that, in order for an entrepreneur to come in and want to be able to have that territory, basically own that territory, they're going to have to come in and compete. And it's a similar kind of ideology to the Polkadot Parachain auctions, where it's a very, very very scarce opportunity, and people will understand there's a very large possibility of making a lot of money to run that operation. So to me, that's what really made me interested. That was a brilliant model. Farnoosh, thank you so much for coming on, and everyone, and thank you for contributing. $10,000 worth of private sale allocation to this giveaway. Again, everyone, like, subscribe, and thank you. Good luck on your launch in a couple days, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, guys, we lost Carl, but I think he's going to come back in here in a second. Okay, why don't you tell us, Ben, about the TikTok ban in China, and the TikTok ban on crypto?
Yeah, well, I mean, TikTok ban, China, it's all one big basket, right? I mean, for those of you who don't know, TikTok started off in China basically as a Chinese app called Douyin, and it was run by a Chinese company called ByteDance. What ByteDance excelled at, even before TikTok or their app, their video sharing app, was basically using AI to deliver. It's kind of like a super BuzzFeed. They used AI to figure out what people were clicking on, and they just served them news articles. They realized this AI was so effective that they could use it for video as well, and thus Douyin was born, and that later on branched into TikTok, right? But the big controversy of course of last year was that China controlled the AI, and there were hundreds of millions of US users who are now kind of subject to the whimsies of whatever the potentially the Chinese Communist Party wanted to show Americans. And so there was this big controversy with data privacy, and they kind of supposedly sectioned off. So they sold off the American, at least a portion of the American rights to a company controlled by Walmart. But what we've seen, and this is actually kind of the scariest thing of all for me, and not just scary for, kind of what I do on TikTok and what other creators do on TikTok, but kind of scary for media and censorship and crypto and even beyond that in all, was how quickly and silently TikTok basically came in and just did away with people's right to express their opinions and express their thoughts. And and they did it in the name of, we're protecting our users because our users don't fully understand crypto, and we don't want them to get involved in an investment that they don't fully understand, which frankly is about one of the most insulting things that I think any end user could ever hear about themselves, is you're too stupid to decide what you want to do for yourself, so let me go ahead and decide for you.
That's the worst, is that all the regulators are always saying, always telling only accredited, meaning rich people, are allowed to participate in anything that actually makes you money. Otherwise, you're too dumb.
And you take that a step further, only the accredited basically are able to learn about crypto, is what it's becoming on TikTok. Only those, I guess only those who are not on that platform have the ability to learn. And what specifically they did is they banned sponsored content, which I could see the merit behind an argument. I don't think it's the right solution, but what they said is basically, if you're an influencer, you are no longer allowed to partner with the project to talk about it. But in actuality, there's absolutely no way to discriminate between content that is sponsored and content that is just, plain and normal and honest content. And so the AI, and I'll get to what bothers me the most about this in 1 second, but the AI basically went through for those first few days and really just was chopping influencers off at the knees, stopping people from being able to put out their message. And we've since learned what you can and can't say. And if anything rubs me the wrong way about TikTok right now, is it's not even saying you can't talk about crypto, but it's saying you can talk about crypto, but only the way that I want you to talk about crypto. And if that's not scary, and if that doesn't speak to the power of these AI, which are incredibly powerful for ByteDance, and how can this be implemented on other platforms with literally, the click of a few buttons and an AI update, basically to silently and quietly shut up the people who they don't want to talk. And you don't even hear many alarm bells being raised because, it's just TikTok and they're controlled by the Chinese recently and it just happened. But this is scary. And this is something that, as the US especially looks to regulate more crypto, a lot of these, influencer deals that are originating at least with a lot of US influencers on YouTube and traditionally in Twitter, or, a lot of money goes through the US. The idea that this regulation could be so quickly imposed upon such a large amount of people is really concerning for I think crypto as an industry.
I feel you, man. I want to transition to something that's pretty interesting. So we all know Richard Hart, or probably most of us know Richard Hart. And there was we have this issue, right, in blockchain about scaling. And we've had this discussion, we had the scaling debate back in, I think, like 2016, 17 for Bitcoin that lasted 2 years. And it's still not at a place that can be used for peer-to-peer cash. Carl, I know that you are working on a solution for that, and we're really excited to be part of that journey with you. So I know that you're fully aware and so aware, in fact, of the lack of scaling, that you guys are building something to address that issue of basically unbearable fees. But we see that in Ethereum as well, and we saw BSC launch and people fleeing to BSC because it was a cheaper, faster solution. Now, and then we have this idea of layer 2 solutions, but they're kind of clunky and things like that. So Richard Hart, first of all, are you guys familiar with the Pulse chain, this project that Richard is working on? Didi, Carl, you guys familiar with it at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. I always get a creepy feeling. I don't know what to think about this guy. So for me,
Well-
it's 50-50.
Well, I mean, you can see when I mean, there's something. Obviously, he's probably doing something right. Like you know, when everything else just got demolished in the correction that we had the last couple months, his other project Hex is the only thing that pumped like hell. Even when everything else was down 90-something%, and all the alts, his was up still 300% or something in the same time frame. And so this is where it gets really interesting. Didi, you have the family coin, right? That's the ERC20.
Yeah.
Carl, you're gonna have ERC20 token as well soon. I have one. Guess what? So Richard is forking Ethereum and making some improvements, a lot like what BSC did, but with even some other adjustments and some like what he calls pumpamentals built into it, which would, you know, basically decrease supply at a much quicker burn rate and more throughput. So basically just forking Ethereum. And here's the crazy part, right? We saw Ethereum Classic fork. But the really crazy, and even though he won't call it contentious, it is contentious in a way, because Didi, you're going to have to make a decision soon. Do you want the family tokens to have value on Ethereum or Pulse Chain? So you could have like E family or P family, and the P family are going to be much cheaper and faster to transact with each other. So people that I know that you are often dealing with the less fortunate and contributing to charity and things like that. And so, you know, like one of the things that I think is very interesting about scaling is that a lot of us are fortunate enough to be able to afford transaction fees, and we just kind of deal with it. But you have a huge population of the world that can't even participate in DeFi because they can't afford the transaction fees to do it, because the transaction fees are higher than the amount that they wanted to put into DeFi. And so that's a real problem when the whole world, the bank the unbanked ideology that we all set off for isn't even feasible with the current networks that exist. So anyway, guess what? So not only is he forking Ethereum, but he's forking every single ERC20 token on Ethereum, and so it's all getting airdropped to everybody. So if you've got 100,000 pay tokens now in your wallet, you're gonna have when they launch this, you're gonna have 100,000 P paid tokens. Basically the Pulse version of them. Everything will work like the same type of functionality, MetaMask, and they're forking Uniswap too, since that's open source. And basically, like for us, we'll have to make a decision. Do we want to accept these Pulse tokens as to count toward the lottery in our IDOs, for example? And right now we just spent all this time.
Sounds like a lot of inflation. I mean, if I go and fork Ethereum, then we get another paid token, and it will just be an endless spiral of more inflation, right? It doesn't really sound like I don't know. I don't want to be too skeptical, but it just doesn't. I mean, just like Bcash and Btrash and Xtrash and whatever. Like it's I don't know really what to think. I mean, I can't say that I'm negative against Pulse Chain because I don't even know. I don't know about it. But that simple little thing alone is something I just don't really like.
The only thing that positive could be, I think, Kyle, is that I register the ERC20 version of the Didi coin, then it would be the P Diddy coin. So that would be really cool. But that's the only positive thing I can say about that. I agree with Kyle. I don't know anything about Pulse, but why would we need to do it? We have it functioning, and the internet was very slow in the 90s as well. We had a 56K modem where they were like, and not everything and all the apps we were using now could be used, but this will evolve.
Yeah, I agree with Didi. I think it's better to scale what we already have. For example, instead of starting Btrash, why not just scale Bitcoin, which already has the network effect? And instead of forking Ethereum, why not work on Ethereum, scaling Ethereum, making Ethereum better?
But that's a good question though. Why not scale Bitcoin? What are we waiting for? I think I think it's like this is okay. I read this article the other day that I wish I had here tonight right now, but it was so hard for me to not read it because it showed up on my Medium, and I wanted to read it, and I wanted to be able to just say these are stupid ideas, and I wanted to be able to talk about it on my channel and slam it. It was like 5 reasons why Bitcoin could fail or have a 99% correction and never come back. And I thought, there's no way that this guy's gonna have valid points. I'm gonna be able to destroy this article. And he started off by saying, well, first of all, let me tell you that I've owned Bitcoin. I got in below $200, but these are some interesting facts. And one of them, the one that's relevant to this discussion, was the fact that the guys who predominantly control the code of Bitcoin don't want it to scale. Because they're also predominant manufacturers of the Lightning Network, which is a centralized network. And so there is this idea of like, I think this is the elephant in the room that all of us who love Bitcoin don't want to talk about. But Carl, like to your point, why don't we scale Bitcoin? What are we waiting for? Why don't we just have bigger blocks? I mean, like,
I think it's easy. You know, we can't avoid talking about that big elephant. You know, we all know that the biggest blockchain contributor is Blockstream, which is owned partly by BlackRock. BlackRock and Vanguard are the only 2 multinationals in the world that own all 30% of all companies all worldwide, also the vaccine, everything. So if they want anything, is that they want to protect the capital of the rich. The rich need to stay rich. And how do you protect the capital of the rich? To create a new gold. And yes, we all, of course, stepped into Bitcoin because it is a peer-to-peer cash. And we dream about this beautiful future where everybody is able to use and transact with Bitcoin. But the ones that are now in control, in my opinion, they want it to be this new digital gold. The one that they can hedge their wealth in when the other system collapses, which they also, of course, do by themselves, and then they stay rich, and the poor, they stay poor. And then in the end, the governments, again, will take over with the central bank's digital currencies that the people can start to use as peer-to-peer cash, and the people will be fooled again, just like they were fooled in the gold rush. The gold rush people had kept the gold at their homes. Then the banks and the governments came and they said, watch out, the Indians are going to steal from you. And the cowboy said, watch out, they are going to steal from you. And then the bank said, give me your gold. We will keep it as a custodial service. It's really safe at the banks. And then they created the fear and people brought the gold to the banks and then the banks were in control. The same game is being played again. The banks are now, first they were shouting at Bitcoin. Now they are saying, we will make it easy for you to buy Bitcoin. We will keep it as a custodial service for you, but you cannot send Bitcoin to anybody else. That is, for me, the same steps they're taking in gold. And I think if we let those companies maintain the blockchain of Bitcoin that are held and controlled by those companies that have, that are kind of controlling all the world, then we can only play the game. And that game is stacking Bitcoin, hodling Bitcoin, because it's going to do the same that gold did. I don't know if you saw the chart of gold that was shared yesterday, that we would now, the small hump in gold in the 40s that Bitcoin would be copying now. If you see that chart, I don't have it with me. It's like really cool to see how high Bitcoin then will go in value. But it won't be the peer-to-peer cash that we are fighting for. We need to fight for our next peer-to-peer cash, in my opinion, or the Lightning Network and everything needs to start to work. But I think that is why they are slowing it down. They need to have the wealth ready to be transferred into it. And that is what they are doing now. For me, it's very simple. If you look at the world, it was impossible for companies like Tesla, MicroStrategy, to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet. It was illegal. For them to do it in a legal way, there needs to be a legal framework. Who creates this legal framework? The governments create that legal framework. Who pays the governments and the presidents? That's the billion-dollar company. It's a circle. It's a circle, in my opinion. So I think that is what is playing out at the moment. That's why all countries start to mine Bitcoins. They all want to be the biggest Bitcoin miner because they knew already that this is going to be the part of the game of the new digital gold. But that's my non-conspiracy mind thinking and analyzing what I see in the world. It's not that I'm saying they want to rule like the world, like with vaccines and all that stuff. That's not what I'm saying. But if it comes to Bitcoin, I think that they want to make it digital gold. instead of peer-to-peer cash. Because if they make it peer-to-peer cash, Carl, that would mean they give freedom to all people. That would mean they can't control humanity anymore, and that would mean they lose all control and they start to freak out. And that's not easy for them to give up, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a like that it is. As much as I like to go out and champion Bitcoin, and it is the best solution that we have right now. That always does bother me a bit about it. And people like Roger Ver, as much as you may love him or hate him, like he was out there championing for something that actually would have been scaled at the base layer solution, and that would have allowed for us to have a peer-to-peer electronic cash on a base layer and not have these second layer centralized solutions that ultimately will be allowed to be controlled, because that's exactly that. The Lightning Network is not decentralized, and people can stop your connection to other people and censor your payments.
Yeah, but you know what I think there's also going on, and we'll keep it short. Sorry, guys, I'm talking so much, but it's very passionate about this, is that we as educators, you can see a trend. Those educators that became very rich in educating, but didn't, push through what they wanted to push through, like Roger Ver, they stepped down, they stepped back, they stopped with educating. So every time we get this new cycle of educators that need to pick up at the beginning again. So we never progress, because the educators that become filthy rich of what we are doing, at the end, they don't see the need anymore of the revolution. They are set safe. And that's not like an attack to any YouTuber and all, but that's in every industry in the world. That's why technology evolves that slowly, because when the people that educate other people in technology become rich, they want to have that villa with all the technology instead of creating new technology. And that's what slows all the process down, in my opinion, as well.
All right, guys, we got to start wrapping up in a second here. Anything that you guys also want to on your mind, or anything that you think we should talk about?
No, I'm very happy that we did this live stream. It was very cool. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and
Carl,
hey,
it's always a pleasure, man.
I was going to say likewise. Thanks for having me. That pulse chain thing is going to be an interesting thing to watch. They raised like
1.3 billion or something like that. So Richard Hart literally just made 1.3 billion dollars. He came up with this idea. Like 4 months ago, and they raised 1.3 billion dollars, and that goes. His team is 4 people, and he's like the one guy running it. It's insane. But it is interesting from regardless, and I don't have an opinion on Richard one way or another. Like, I met him in Malta, we had a good time, went Akon concert together, just hung out, and fine. But for all of those, I'm just curious. I'm not defending him, but I am curious why everybody who just says Richard Hart's a scammer or Hex is a scam, I just want to know what your logic is behind it. Because, and I'm not saying this to defend him. Trust me, I'm not. But when Richard comes to talk about something, he's got mountains of data and facts, just can rattle off everything to back up what he's talking about. When I had him on my show, and the comments that I get, it's just a bunch of people. He's a scammer. Kyle, you lost credibility listening, bringing him on your show, blah, 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 blah. I would like to know, and if any of you guys, I see it in the comments right now, if any of you feel this way, please provide some type of substance to your comment. I am genuinely asking this. I'm genuinely interested to know why you feel this way. I like to try to give everybody an opportunity to prove themselves. Obviously, no matter how you feel about Hex, if you invested in Hex at the beginning, I sat down with Richard in Malta back in 2018 or something. He told me about Hex, and if I would have said that sounds good, let me put $100,000 in it now, I would have had $100 million by now or something like that. It's so.
But it doesn't matter. You also have it because you have.
I'm very sorry, but I'm gonna have to wrap up actually.
Well, Carl, 1 second. What car are you driving? And can you just drive away while filming so we can see how fast it goes?
Well, I'm driving a McLaren.
Wow, that's a cool orange one.
Bitcoin orange, of course.
Beautiful.
Of course.
Is it nice, Carl?
It's a fantastic car. It's faster than Lambo and Ferrari. it's like I mean, people are saying that you should buy Lambo with Bitcoin, but come on, this is actually an orange McLaren. It's like a perfect crypto car. It's amazing.
Thanks, brother.
Very fast.
Amazing color.
Enjoy,
Bye,
brother.
guys. See you in the next live stream.
Bye-bye. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. So anyway, this is interesting. Like, I love good, healthy debate. But one thing I don't like is or don't appreciate is when people throw out baseless comments because without any type of information.
Was he not involved with a scam? Is that not the reason that they also call him a scammer? What
I
was
don't
he?
think
Not that I'm aware of. From what I hear from a lot of people, just there's a lot of transparency questions around kind of the projects that happen with Hex, and whenever people don't see all the information before their eyes, they just jump to scam. But I haven't seen anything historically that's told me he's a scammer. And what I find telling is that when a lot of people watch his interviews and when people watch his podcast, a lot of people come away with the impression, everyone in crypto, if you've been successful, you have a little bit of a BS meter, right? That you have to trust. And I think that watching him and his podcasts and interviews he does is pretty trustworthy. But I mean, I see the argument of the people saying scam, because even the Pulse chain raise, basically they just had a wallet out there and they're just like, send us tokens. And the number I saw was like 700 million to one wallet alone was just sent. And they clearly say, and this is for legal and tax purposes, but they say, you have no responsibility. We don't owe you anything. These tokens are worthless, blah, 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 blah. And yet people, are willing to give away $700 million to a single unlocked wallet. It's pretty crazy. And I can see where people get a lot of this unease. I don't think it's without any merit at all.
Okay.
Yeah. That does make sense, but I guess now that he's proven himself.
Sorry,
Huh?
I don't know him in person. But
He-
if he invites me to Malta, pays me the Aiken tickets and a nice dinner, and explains me why he's not a scammer, maybe I can talk positive about him on YouTube as well.
I think he'd be gone by now if he was a scammer with 700 million in his wallet. In a period of about 2 months, I think he'd be gone. I think that's a pretty good test. Unlocked.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that he also Richard has a really big ego, and I think that his reputation. I think one of the things about is vindication, because he got, like, a lot of people were screaming scam on Hex, and I like, Hex has basically no use case other than rewarding people for holding long term, and in essence, like, that's what makes it. So proven that gets. I don't know. I actually cannot even tell you enough about Hex to even describe it, but Pulse chain is easier to understand because it's literally solving a problem today that we all have with Ethereum. And we can see that when BSC created BSC, everybody fled because we all wanted cheaper and faster transactions. And so, and now everyone's saying that we should look at layer 2 scale. Even if you look at Ivan or anyone else, like, everyone's saying layer 2 scaling solutions are kind of what's going to bring in the next, bull run for altcoins and this kind of stuff. But layer 2 scaling solutions are clunky and they're not layer 1, and a lot of them are centralized. And so scaling on the base layer is what I always think is important, and that's what they're attempting to do. So I admit, like, I put some money into it, and just because I'm curious. It's going to be a crazy experiment. It'll also be interesting to see how projects now have this interesting dilemma to deal with. Now I've got my entire token supply has been forked on this other chain. Do we assign value to it or not? Or let people speculate? I have no idea how this is going to happen. Nonetheless, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Yeah, Didi, you were going to say something else, were you?
No, I didn't want to say anything else. I want to go back to the water park and play in the slides with my kids.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming in the show. Didi, always amazing to see you. Tarzan, thanks, buddy, for coming on. Appreciate it. Everyone, have a wonderful night. Again, in the description below, there's a Gleam campaign. That's how you can participate. One of the ways you can participate in these crypto cases. And have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you, Tarzan.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
I like your hair.
Yeah.